What a few months these have been for Argentina. It elected a new center-right president in November, swiftly introduced key reforms, and now, after a 15-year battle, reached an agreement with holdout creditors, allowing the country to finally re-enter international capital markets. To discuss what these changes mean for Argentina, as well as for the international markets, I'm joined by Edwin Gutierrez, Head of Emerging Market Sovereign Debt at Aberdeen Asset Management. Edwin, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me here.
Welcome. So Argentina, finally, they've reached an agreement with the main group of the holdout creditors, and now finally they had the chance to re-enter the international capital markets. Are they going to be on the bench?
No, it's a very good question. And yes, there's now going to be a pretty considerable amount of supply, but one of the big positives is that Argentina starts from a very low base because they haven't been issuing for the past 15 years.
So they can support all this borrowing, they can deal with all the borrowing. What about you guys? So you are a key investor, obviously in emerging markets, and an observer of Latin America. How do you look at Argentina? What do you think are the chances of the country actually improving its situation and becoming a really palatable investment for the international community?
Yes, and this is the big challenge. Of course, the initial challenge is to issue this immense amount of debt. This is going to be the biggest issue in emerging markets in 20 years. So that the market has to digest first. But beyond that, we see Argentina being in very capable hands. The cabinet which President Macri has assembled is arguably the most talented cabinet in Latin America in well over a decade. We jokingly say this is the Real Madrid of Latin American cabinets. There's that much talent, and the bench is that deep in Argentina.
And so that obviously is a very good sign, but on the other side of the political spectrum, we have the Peronist Party, and as we know, they don't really have a good record in letting non-Peronists govern the country. What do you expect from them?
No, that's very much an excellent point, Silvia. The sad history of non-Peronista administrations in Argentina is the fact that they don't finish their term. So the Peronistas, yes, they've been dealt a big blow, but they're not, they haven't disappeared. They're very much just a wounded animal. They will strike when they feel that Macri is vulnerable. And when could that develop? Well, the adjustment that we see in Argentina, that will entail some pain. And so the big hope here from the Macri administration is that they are able to recover investor confidence and that they're able to reinvigorate growth. Because if growth doesn't return, that's when the vulnerability sets in, and that's when the Peronistas could strike.
So growth has been a key issue for the whole of the region. I know that you like Argentina because you like idiosyncratic stories, and definitely Argentina doesn't fit in the trend that has been driving down, unfortunately, economically, the whole of the region. What other stories, economies do you like in the region in Latin America?
No, that is the big challenge for the region. Growth is very difficult to find. This is part of this big correction in commodities, and as we know, Latin America is a big exporter of commodities. So you see the continent struggling. Brazil, of course, is the most egregious case. Another year of recession, close to about -4%. The Andes all experiencing a big slowdown because of the commodity complex there. You have to go further afield to some of these smaller stories, countries like Dominican Republic, which is one of the fastest growing countries in the region, with growth consistently north of 5%. And growth isn't everything, but it does create an environment which tends to be more fertile for investment. So it's some of these smaller idiosyncratic plays like Dominican Republic or another country like Honduras. Both these countries are running very disciplined fiscal policy, which also is one of the big challenges, especially when you see a slowdown in growth, and that has a big impact on your tax revenues.
So talking about Latin America, we can't avoid discussing Venezuela.
Yes.
So what's your view there?
Well, Venezuela is facing twin pressures. One's positive, one's negative. The obvious negative is the absolute collapse in oil prices. And this, unfortunately, is pretty much all Venezuela does. It's 95% of its exports because of the Dutch disease that's been in place now for the past 3 decades. Now, the positive is the gains made by the opposition. And the potential for regime change. And we've seen this firsthand in the region with Argentina, just how quickly investor sentiment towards a country can shift under the right management. Now, that transition to the opposition in Venezuela, it's very difficult to call the time. And it is probably the base case. It's not going to be a smooth one. This is the unfortunate thing in Venezuela, where both sides are so polarized, where violence is already high to begin with, and it's become a very militarized and weaponized society. So that's our fear, that yes, the transition to a better, more market-friendly government is coming, but our fear is how that transition manifests itself.
Very well. Thank you for your comments.
Yeah, thank you, Silvia.